So the first thing we want to look at today is we're supposed to do a review of the task we all did on Thursday when we came for physical class, but because the time we have this evening is not very much, so we're not going to do a review of that task, and hopefully maybe by tomorrow we'll do the review of that task. Now what we want to look at today, we are going to be looking at media queries. We're going to be looking at media queries. We have talked about Flex. We'll quickly look at media queries. Then tomorrow we'll continue. We'll finish up media queries and we'll move to the sister of Flex. So today, when we say mobile ready, what we are trying to address is that what we are actually building is actually going to fit perfectly well on mobile and at the same time fit perfectly well on desktop. So for example, we have seen situation where we visit a page on a desktop computer and it is properly rendered, and we'll visit the same page on a small device and is as well properly rendered. So as a front-end designer or a front-end developer or a front-end engineer, one of the major things you contend with every day is how do you render this application perfectly well on a desktop and you're able to render it on a multiple screen. So because of this, we are going to be doing some few things, and I think I opened a screen. Let me just see if so we're going to be using CSS media queries, or the media rule as the case may be. We're going to be using this. This is from W3 School, quite a good documentation there. And CSS media rule, introduced in CSS2, made it possible to define different style for different media types. For example, you want to deploy a different design entirely from your HTML. You want to deploy a different design to a small screen, and you want to deploy a different design to another bigger screen and stuff like that. We'll be using CSS media rule. But then it is also good that we notice that media rules comes in three variants. We have the media all, and we have the media print, and we have the media screen. Most of the time we'll spend our time writing media screen, because this is what a lot of the time is actually needed for your app to be deployed. So you write your CSS rule that actually conforms to a screen size, a tablet size, a smartphone, then a computer screen. But then within a few years of me actively working on projects within the industry, I have actually had to use the print option also alternatively, so we can use screen and we can use print. So now I will drop the link to this page, but then let's look at the syntax. It says media not or only media type, media feature, and media feature CSS code. So what are we trying to say here? So the first thing here is that the art media has to come handy. That's the first thing you define. You define the art media, then you use this logical operator not and or only media type. Now for example, I will do at media screen, something like that. I can do. Go ahead.
You're not sharing your screen.
Are you full?
Exactly.
Oh, that bad. Okay, so let me go and share my screen, please. Sorry about that.
Yes, sir. And please, sir, you said you would record.
Yeah, I'm recording. Yeah, I'm recording.
Okay, sir.
You should see my screen now. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm saying that this is a media query syntax. It says at media, media type, media feature, and media feature. Then you write your CSS code. So for example, I can do something like at media, at media screen. What is it again? Yeah, I can do something like at media screen and media future. Now, media future are actually breakpoint you define. I give you an instance. I've actually written some number of code here already. I've actually written something like this. This is not what I want. I've actually written this already. Yeah, I've actually written this already, and I'm using Twitter Bootstrap to write this. And when I deploy this code, for instance, when I deploy this code, it is going to load this. This is what it loads. Takes a little bit of time, but it's going to load soon. Oh, why is this thing taking too much time? Not responsive. Just a minute, let me get through this. Okay, now this is what it is going to load. Now this looks so perfectly well rendered on my desktop, but then the question becomes, when I trigger this my extension on Chrome, when I trigger this extension, look at how it loads on a mobile. If I deploy this thing to a real mobile device, and I think this is actually iPhone, if I deploy this on a real iPhone device, this is exactly how it's going to load. I don't know why okay, yeah, this is exactly how it's going to load. So it's going to work the same way. Now the only difference is that on a desktop screen it is stretched from side to side, but on a mobile screen it is still retaining the same font size kind of, but then it is still stretching from side to side. Now let's look at another screen. Now while we are looking at another screen, you would notice something. If I'm hovering on Samsung S20, for example, it is having a width of 360 by a height of 800. But if I hover on Xiaomi 360 800, if I come here, it is 360 780. So when we go back to this point, when we come back to this point and we are saying that media type, media future, and media future. Now this media future are like the conditions. So for example, if I want to run this code, even though yes, because I'm using Bootstrap, there is limit to, or there is actually provision for media responsiveness on Bootstrap. But if I'm not using this, there is I need to write my code myself. So for example, so I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do this, and as you can see here, we have links, which is actually a div. So, and what that means is that if I come to my Chrome and I click on this load media, if I click on this, it is going to load my link. So this is my link for real. If I close this, my extension, you would also see that my link is somewhere there. My link is somewhere there. For real, it's also there. I don't know why this is okay. So my link is also here. So now let's assume that we now want to do media responsiveness. As you can see, I have linked my CSS. This is the only CSS I have. I have linked my CSS to this HTML. On this other HTML, I am only using a CDN, so I don't have a local CSS that is linked to it. So I'm going to come here and let me start by actually defining the properties for my links. So I'm going to come to style. I'm going to get rid of all this, and I'm going to define the style for my links like this. Just so I know how it behaves, I'm going to say background color red. So let's go check if this works. As you can see, I don't know why it takes too much time to load. Maybe let me just disable the CSS. Let me disable the this CDN for now, so that it doesn't take my time. So I'm going to disable this, and I'm going to disable my JavaScript. I'm also going to disable my JavaScript. Okay, so it doesn't load any resource from anywhere. So yep. Okay, so now you see that my color has affected this, right? But because I am not defining any form of media query, what it means is that so long this page exists, this does not take any other color if it is not red. Now let's look at what media query can help us to do. So at the bottom of my page, for now, because of the want of time, I am not going to write too much of properties here. I'm going to say at media rule, which is like this, and it's actually going to be a media screen. I'm writing for media screen, and I'm saying then I put this max width. So now yep, and max width. Let's take a look at the process again. So look at what happens here. It says at media type. So we are saying the media type we are using is actually screen and media future and so on and so forth. So let's go back there. So we are saying at media screen, and so now when you are doing this, you can actually do it in multiple forms. So I'm going to say at max width like this, max width is, we are looking for 360px. That is for that small phone, right? Now for here we are going to grab the links, and this time around we are going to say the background color should be let me say green for now. All right, so let's come here. Sorry, we are going to our this, and this is going to refresh, load. So we are doing perfectly well with this. It is still red color, but then let's throw in the media screen. Remember that we are writing the media for max width 360px, and let's wait for it to render and let's see what happens. Okay, fine. So what is the size we are currently on? I think this is an iPhone, I guess. So let's 360 by 800. Let's check this and see what happens to our media screen. See if it is actually rendered. Okay, now you see for 360px we are getting a background color of green. Alright, so let's go and check for another one, Galaxy A12 360. So for all of these devices that are actually running 360px, okay, so it is going to affect all 360. So let's do Huawei P30 Pro. You'll see it is going to be green, even though the phone changes, but the width of the phone is the same thing. It is going to be green color. But now let's look at Google Pixel 5. Google Pixel 5 is running 393 pixels. So let's toggle this, and you're going to see that the color is going to change now. The color changes to the default color. Now the reason why the color is changing is because Google Pixel 5 is actually 393px. But sometimes a whole lot of us as beginners would ask, so I have to know the screen size of all the phone that is existing in the whole world. The answer is simply no. You don't need to know the sizes of the phones that are actually existing in the whole world. Now let's go back to Visual Studio Code and let's see what we can do to tweak this. Now say for example we have said that max width. So we are saying that the breakpoint is once it is 361 or 360.5px, do not apply this thing. But now let's say that we are saying mean width. For example, we say mean width is 360px. So what we are trying to say is that the only thing that will make this to change is if your screen size is actually below 360px. So now let's go to our code and then let's go to our browser again and let's check. Remember, it is mean width, so that means it is actually starting to count from 360px upward. Now the next thing, once it loads now, we are going to look for a device that is smaller than 360px. I don't know why this takes too much time to load. I still don't see the reason why it should take too much time to load. I'm not connected to any CDN. Okay, so now we are actually on green because we are running a mean width of 300 on Google PX. The minimum width is 360px, so the maximum width is not actually defined. We are saying minimum width is 360px. So let's look for a device that is smaller than 360px. So iPhone 5 is 320px. So let's trigger iPhone 5 and let's see if the color is going to remain green. Now you see the color is not remaining green because we have moved from minimum width of 360 and now we have moved to a device that is smaller than 360px. Now let's go back to code and see what again we can do to improve this. Now we can do min width 360px and then we can do max width. We can throw in and here and sorry, I did a mistake, and then throw in this max width like this, max width let's say 520px. Let me just try that. So now what we are doing here is we are chaining two, and we are not wrong for chaining because look at the syntax here. We are chaining two media features. So we are saying if the minimum screen is actually 360px and then the maximum screen should be 520px. So we are saying everything in between 360 to 520 should inherit this green color. Now let's go and check our product and see what we have done. Remember, 320 to 520. So let's look for devices that are actually 300 and what is that in again? 360. Okay, so we're going to check iPhone 13, which is 390, and let's see what it goes. And then I'm going to look for a device. All right. I wonder why this thing is taking too much time to load. Just a minute. I'm not understanding why this is taking too much time to load. I'm just going to get rid of this for a moment. Let's get rid of all this. Okay, now we have done iPhone 13, which is green. Remember, it is 360 to 520. Now let's do iPhone 13 Pro Max, which is 428px. So I'm going to select iPhone 13 Pro Max and let's see if this is going to change from green to red. And if my guess is right, it's actually going to be green because it is still within the threshold of 360 to 520. Now let's look for a device that is actually higher. Okay, fine. We'll have another one, 414. Okay, it's still within the threshold. Now let's look for a device that is outside the threshold of, okay, so let's get tablet. Now this iPad mini is 768px. So let's see if this is going to inherit the green color. Let's see if this will inherit the green color. Now you see this is inheriting the red color because it has gone outside the threshold of 360 to 520, and that is why you are getting a red color. So anytime you are building anything for the web, especially when you have to consider media queries, what you should do is you don't need to define every screen. Basically, for example, maybe iPhone 13 is 340, you go and do media screen, and max width is 340. You do another one at max speed is 355. You do another one at max screen is 322, and so on and so forth. Instead, what you can do is, if you look at the entire smartphones, if you look at the entire Apple smartphone, it looks like a good number of them are actually grouped. So for example, iPhone 5 and iPhone SE are actually 320. Now, the space or the size between iPhone 5 and possibly iPhone 13 is just small, right? So we can do 320 to 390 to cover iPhone 5 to iPhone 13, as the case may be. Then for our Android phone, we can as well look at what is relatively close, and we can group them together. Like for example, Samsung Galaxy S20, and then we have 360, we have 360, we have 360, we have 393, 412. So this ones we have 360, 360. So if I target my breakpoint to be 360px, what it means is that I have covered a whole range of phones. Any question up to this point?
Yes, sir. There are some questions.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so it's not really related, but it's quite convenient. So someone is asking, what are the extensions or the extension you're using for the languages, for HTML, CSS, and I think Java?
Okay, for
Which extension are you using to link your browser and VS Code?
no, we are not using any extension to link browser and VS Code. We are using live server. I think we settled this last time we met. I was said if you are using VS Code, come to extension here and install live server. Install live server. It's actually from Retweak Day. I know there are a couple of live servers extensions that are available. As you can see, this one, Yannick, and so on and so forth. But this is the one I use, the one from Retweak Day. So that's the extension I use to connect. So what it helps me to do, it does a hot refresh on every line of code that arrives. So once the code is saved, it refreshes automatically, so I don't have to go and do refresh on my browser. So if I get your question correct, I think this is the answer to your question. But if I'm not correct, you can just clarify me so I can do more explanation.
Yeah, I think that answers the question, sir.
Okay.
But sir, is it still okay to use live preview as well?
Like I said, there are just 2001 things you can use. I think live preview will put a miniature browser within your VS Code. My laptop screen is so small, so I try and utilize it the best way I can. So live preview might work, but I don't use it. But I think live preview, what it does is that it helps you preview your code. I mean the result of your code within your VS Code. I guess that's what it does, but I'm not so sure. Okay, even it's still under development, so it might break. Really, it might break when you're using it. So the choice is yours to decide, but I guess that's what it does. But for me, I do live server because it generates. In fact, one other thing that you can do with live server is that you can forward your port. So as I am writing this code, I can send you the link to my port, and you can visit it on your phone, and you can see what I'm actually doing. And it also does a hot refresh even on your own phone without staying close to me, anywhere you are in the world. So that's why I use it. So it's all open, really. I mean, it's not like I'm shoving this thing down your throat that you must use live server, but I mean it is greatly opinionated. A lot of people in the front end space actually use live server. So it's up to you to choose whatever is good for you. I will drop a link for multiple extensions you can use. You choose the one you want to use, especially if you're on VS Code, and you can install it. There is no harm.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
You can go on, sir.
Okay. All right. So now that this has been done, you can see now that media query is actually a tool that you should have in your toolbox as a front-end engineer. Now, because like we said, we all agree that this class is going to be just 45 minutes, so we are not going to go into in-depth of everything we can achieve, but it's just like an introduction to the media query. Now, another thing that we can also do is, for example, let's go back to our code, and I'm going to, okay, so secondly, this extension I'm using right here on this browser is actually called let me get the name. It's actually called Mobile Simulator. As you can see, it Mobile Simulator. So you can install it on your Chrome, Firefox. I don't know if it is available on Edge, but I think it should be. You can install it so that you can use it to test your multiple screen when you are writing, because eventually, as a front-end developer, one of the major pain you would have to go through in this beginning level is fathoming what is rendered on what screen, right? So, but as much as possible, it is not something you should begin to, I mean, you don't have to cram the screen sizes of multiple devices. You don't have to do it. All you just have to do is to get an extension that simplify these processes for you. So as you can see now, I can even test on my MacBook, even though yes, the computer I'm using is exactly the size of a MacBook, but you never can, we cannot overemphasize the thing that this thing is doing. I mean, the effect of this thing. And you can even see that you can write for an Apple Watch, and you look at how it is going to display on your Apple Watch. So for me, this is a no-brainer. This is a whole lot packed into an extension that is deployed on your browser. So go check it out. Go to your extension on your browser and look for Mobile Simulator. It is going to help you. And you can see what we have done. Look at how it beautifully renders on your device. Now, the next thing I'd want to talk about, which is also as part of the things of media query, is if you, as you can see now, this line 5 is the declaration of the media. So now when you declare this media, you will now rewrite the processes, all the classes that you want to be affected. You rewrite all the classes inside the media rules. It is very important. So what it means is that this curly braces outside here is actually the one closing these curly braces. So don't see it as a little bit confusing when you now see that there are two media that there are two curly braces that is ending your media query. Now the second one I'd want to do is, let's go back to our code again, and now that it is here, if I should press my Ctrl P, for example, you will see that it is going to render this page just the way it is displaying on my browser. Okay, so you can see now it is going to render this thing just the way I am seeing it on my browser. But now let's do some things, right? We're just going to do some little tweaks and let's see what is going to help us to achieve. So this time around, I'm going to do at media, but it is not going to be screen at this time because we have exhausted the little thing we want to do on screen. Now what I want to do here is media print, and this time around it is just going to be bare like this. We don't declare the size and we don't declare anything. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to alter, let's come to our media here. Inside links we have UL, then we have LI inside link. So the first thing is that I want to alter this, so I'm going to do dot links, and then I'm going to do UL and I'm going to do LI, and inside here I'm going to say display should be inline like this. Now if I run this code, you will see that nothing is going to happen here. In fact, even if you deploy this thing on a media on a mobile screen, nothing is actually also going to happen. I don't know why this thing is taking time to load when there is no resources that has been called. Okay, so you can see now nothing is happening here. Even if we deploy on a mobile screen like this, if we come here now and deploy on a mobile screen, let's just pick any device, any mobile screen of our choice, you'll see that nothing is actually also going to happen. It's just going to inherit its green color. That's the only thing we said it should do when we deploy on mobile screen. So I'm going to deploy to my mobile screen now. Okay, it's coming. I don't know why this thing is messing up. So I'm deploying to my mobile screen now. Yeah, okay, great. And you're going to see that the only thing it's going to do here is just to change the background color to green. Nothing is going to happen. But then it is still coming as a block element. As you can see now, they are still coming down as block elements. But then let's return to our regular screen and let's trigger the print. Let's trigger the print and let's see what we have done. While I wait for it to load. Okay, now nothing is happening here, but let's go and check why it is not doing what we ask it to do. So what I'm going to do is media print. Sorry, there is a mistake. It's actually links, not link. So you see, spelling mistake has cost me a whole lot of things here. So we are actually targeting links, a plural form, not link. But here I'm actually calling links. So I'm just going to change this to links, and then let's go back to our browser, and it is fully loaded. I think it is going to be loaded very soon. Okay, now fully loaded, and let's do Control P again, and let's see what has happened. If it doesn't work again, we go and check where we're making mistake, but chances are that it should work now. It doesn't work. Let's check. Probably there's a mistake I'm not catching. At media, print, links, UL, LI, display inline. Okay, so if that's don't work, let me change the color, links, background color. I'm just gonna do, let's do yellow. Let's be sure. Let's do yellow. And then at media print, yeah, let's do yellow. And then wait again for it to load. We'll get to the roots, and then let's do Control P, and we're going to confirm where the error is coming from. Something is not adding up. Something is not adding up. Media print.